The fame of Ed and Lorraine Warren, known as the...
'23?
Is it today? No, today's the 22nd.
No.
It's not?
Is it? Don't lie to me.
I think today's the 22nd. I hope today's the 20. Twitch is 15 seconds ahead. That's what, of course that is. Wait, the intro music before somebody gets mad.
Okay.
There. Welcome to May 22nd, 2024, everyone. And today, guess what I got? This is the SGU. Look at that little logo pop up.
Wow, it's like magic. Man.
With our host, Jay Novella.
In the house.
And,
right?
Yeah, not Steve Novella yet, but soon, potentially. He's not here yet. Today on the broadcast, we're going to be talking about mind-controlled pigs.
Oh, boy.
See this new lower third that we installed?
Yeah, it's good stuff,
you
man.
guys ready for the no sound? Uh-oh. TikTok has no sound. Okay, wait. Reiki is unfalsifiable. Hold on. Wait for TikTok.
Terrence Howard develops new flight periodic table.
Thank you.
And that the universe...
There it is. Sorry, TikTok, we muted. Okay, and that the universe is older or younger, maybe. I don't know. It's not really clear what he was talking about in that video that he was on Joe Rogan. There's a meteor over Spain that we got sent in, which is pretty awesome.
They sent us the meteor, right?
They sent us the meteor right from Spain. Herbal medicine book is being promoted heavily on TikTok.
I saw that.
I know, and so a lot of creators seem to be getting the paycheck from that one. So I don't know. We'll talk about that, TT.
That makes me angry.
TikTok. I know.
Okay.
And apparently it cures all diseases.
Yes,
so that's
of course it does.
Pretty cool.
Of course
and
it does.
A couple ghost hunters actually agree with us, and specifically agree with you, Steve Perry, and even Bob. From way back in the day when you guys were talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh boy, there's the division in the ranks.
The division in the ranks, and of course TikTok time for today. So that's what's on the list today. And then let's see if this disappears when I press it. Whoa!
That
so
was
that
pretty
dissolved.
nice, man.
That was pretty good.
Did you do that on your own?
No, but let's just say I did. So welcome in everybody. Like aspirin? Well, I mean, in a way, that is like an herb that was purified and made concentrated, and then in a way that works.
Okay. And what does this have to do with the pigs?
That has nothing to do with the pigs. So the pigs thing, some people may be familiar with this. It was popping up on social media as of late. Let me just pause it and bring it up real quick. Jay, tell me, what is this? Like, what is this situation right
What's happening
here?
All right, somebody's writing something. Oh, I've seen this. Yeah, very strange. I saw this
Look
about a
at
month ago.
What is... I thought it was like they were photoshopped their heads in,
No.
but apparently this is legit.
I mean,
just the intensity of the
I don't
stare.
know why the trainers are so intent at looking at one thing. Like I was trying
true.
to figure this out.
Oh, wait, everyone. Dr. Steven Novella. I need an applause.
Yay!
I need an applause. There we go. We'll play the
Hey,
music for just a
everybody.
little bit.
You missed about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perfect timing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I mean
Steve's here.
this whole pig thing to me, I thought it was like a pig show to get them to walk straight to see which pig is the best. But I don't know, man. It could be anything. The world is very strange.
The world is very.
What is
strange.
it, by the way?
So it is. I looked it up before, but let me see if it's. Oh yeah, the Revival Livestock Show.
Okay.
It's a pig show, and they train these pigs, and the intenseness with which they're staring is at the judges to maintain eye contact. Apparently, that is part of the training, and that they're so skilled at maneuvering these pigs around. As you can see, people walking by, they're staring at the judges, and just showcasing, I guess, their skill at maneuvering pigs around. So
I mean, not to put people down, but whoa. You know?
I mean,
Well, I mean, it's a cultural thing.
it's a
People-
cultural, yeah, it's America.
it's
Come
weird.
on.
These kind
No,
of things evolve.
It's weird. Look at the.
from the outside when you're.
Yeah, it's weird. It is what it is.
What isn't weird though? I mean, think about it. Pretty much anything that we do is weird
But,
from the outside.
but the idea that somebody came up with the idea of the trainers not breaking eye contact with the judges, like that's strange. It's just strange. It is what it is. So
I'm
look
sure
at-
it evolved for some
Rewind
reason.
5 seconds. Watch when they're all looking at the judges at the same time. Just watch this. Tell me what feeling you get.
No, I know it's awkward. You maintained.
Watch right here.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, please.
Maintained eye contact like that is a primate threat.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah, that's true.
If we're doing the mathematical equation of what you just said,
Yeah.
Evolution, primate threat equals weird in pig training. My opinion. Okay, move on.
But what I'm saying is there probably is a reason for it that we're not aware of.
All right.
Yeah.
It having something to do with
Pigs.
there's some skill involved in,
Yeah, like they might trip.
or maybe like if it's harder to control the pig if you're not looking at the pig itself. So it's like maybe it's forcing them not to do something.
They should
else.
blindfold them then, clearly.
Clearly. Anybody on Instagram? I think the Instagram feed is like lagging, so come over somewhere else to YouTube, Twitch, all the other ones. All right, I'm just gonna kill that feed because that's being annoying. Anyway, we're back. So we have a couple weird videos at the beginning we wanted to showcase. We were going through some of the TikToks. Hopefully we picked correctly, Jay, which ones we think Steve would like.
Yes.
And it wouldn't like. So let's see if we picked correctly the ones. So here's another one. This is just a little funny bit. Let's see. Hold on.
Okay.
Pause this one.
Today and went to
God, I hate when you rewind it and it auto.
took a
It
chance
plays,
today
yeah.
and went to church, and you'll never believe this. They literally handed me a silver platter full of money. Like, God is good. God is good.
So,
That's a great interpretation of what's going on there.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's what I was hoping for. Anyway, so let's move on. Jay, can you tell me what's happening here?
All right, I know exactly what this is. They're putting those are dye bladders that they put ink on those, and then those bladders are able to assume the shape of the outside of a bowl, the inside of a bowl. It's a way that they decorate pottery and stuff like that.
Okay, there you go. I think
you.
Jay is right on the money. Let's see. There we go. Well, apparently the ramen bowls. Obviously, Jay has done a deep dive into this to make sure he's correct. Factually correct. There's the stamp.
So it inks and then stamps.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's an obvious subtext to that video.
Is there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't need to talk
Were
about
we
it.
correct, Steve? You didn't want to do that video for?
I did not- I
Yeah,
would
I don't
not
think
have
that
done
one.
that video.
Yeah. Okay.
It is pretty cool though how nuanced manufacturing is. Like that is a brilliant way to apply graphics to non-flat surfaces.
Right.
Which I find interesting. Like somebody had to think about that. influenced
mass
by-
production is all about efficiency, speed, cost effectiveness. Yeah, if you find a slightly better way of doing something, it could mean millions.
Yep. So they make the breast stamps. You know, you could try this at home.
You could. We have a couple other videos that we could jump to. So there was some ghost hunters that apparently agreed with us. Specifically, an older video. Oh, you know what? I don't have the timestamp. Where is the timestamp? It's right over here. We may recognize somebody. This is apparently a ghost hunter, goes by the name of Selena Spooky Boo.
Spooky Boo.
Spooky Boo. That one of our listeners who's a fan sent us in. She's pretty popular, but she was discussing, you can't see it here for some reason, the truth about Ed and Lorraine Warren,
Nobody
which you
else
guys
saw
have
them.
some
George and
connection to. And there's one point that somebody popped up that their listener was, I don't have the timestamp anymore. I had it and now I don't know where it is. I think it's back here. Let me find. There it is. There. It's a little
I
spoiler.
recognize that guy.
A little spoiler.
In 1952, the couple founded the New England Society.
1952.
for
So
Psychic Research.
this was something else in another podcast that somebody was talking about. Was the Ness inspired by the New England Paranormal Society's name at all?
No.
There you go.
Why? Because we share New
'cause it's-
England in common?
I think it's because it's Nesper and it's Ness. And somebody made the illusion that it was like,
No.
they've been around longer, so.
No, so first of all, we started as the Connecticut Skeptical Society. Then we realized there were no other ones in New England. So we might as well just be the New England Skeptical Society. And we like the name Ness because it is a play on the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes.
That's it. And that happened before we knew that Nesper existed.
Yeah. Even though they were founded in 1950 something.
Yeah, but they don't really their brand is Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Right.
Their brand is not Nesper. Nobody knows what Nesper is.
Right.
Right. That's a total insider baseball. The people who are in that very tiny organization know that name. There's no brand awareness outside of that.
I think Ed was 28 or something when he founded it, quote unquote. So, and also he was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Currently,
Little
the New
fun
England
fact. There you go.
Skeptical Society
There we
emerged
go.
in 1996, offering contrasting viewpoints and becoming one of the Warrens' most vocal critics. The
How did they
emphasis
get
on
that
research lent
video?
credibility
From
to
Skepticon, right? Isn't that where?
But I mean,
it's
of
at?
all the let's find a
Of all the
video
videos.
of somebody from the Ness. I'm not sure how they came up with that video.
Yeah,
interesting.
Bob.
Which has nothing to do with the Warrens or ghost hunting or anything. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's
Maybe they
he's got an SGU shirt on. That's
true.
good.
Maybe they just searched for a video of somebody who's part of the nest.
Yeah,
like
whatever.
you know what I mean.
So what do they say?
I think she is a believer of ghosts in general, but she's like debunking Ed and Lorraine specifically.
So that is not uncommon. And essentially, the short version is Ed and Lorraine Warren, in addition to going around and lecturing, they had their local ghost hunting classes. Basically, their scam was you give a lecture someplace at a college campus or something, and then you recruit from the audience the real believers to come to take the ghost hunting classes that they held, and then some of those people get into the Nesper organization where they go on ghost hunting, and then before too long they realize that they're total frauds, and then they depart disillusioned and angry and start their own ghost hunting organization. So New England, for a time, was full of ghost hunting organizations filled by ex-Ed and Lorraine Warren, flunkies.
It was a hotbed.
Who had become disillusioned with Ed and Lorraine Warren, because and all had anecdotes about how Ed cheated in one way or another, and they caught him because he was not the brightest bulb on the tree. You know what I mean? So that ghost hunters are critical of Ed and Lorraine Warren is not surprising. Yeah. And it partly is a generational thing because we transition from, the literally 1950s version of ghost hunting, which is, which was, I think, all showmanship, to the more modern ghost hunter, which I think is more serious and self-deluded. I don't know that. It wouldn't surprise me if Ed didn't believe anything that he said. He was just, I just think he was all a showman. He probably believed a lot of it, but it didn't seem to matter that much, from my perspective.
Well, he was immune to evidence.
He was immune to evidence, absolutely, and he was not a serious investigator who was after the truth.
No,
he had
definitely
a
not.
brand, and he was promoting the brand.
Yeah,
And that was it. And that's what he was concerned with, his image. But I think
and they made good money.
the true believer, though, the true believers who went off, to do their own ghost hunting were true believers, and they were more into gadgetry, and often Ed was definitely mired in just photographs and low grade video, right? That was sort of his stock in trade, and then it was a lot of the people that worked for him that tried to bring in more of the higher tech stuff, which I never really saw Ed interact with himself directly. You know what I mean? So it's just a different breed of ghost hunter. So it's not shocking or surprising at all that they would be very disrespectful of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories of them, putting on the show.
Yeah.
Like when Lorraine, they brought her to the possessed house, and then she goes out in the front yard, and she's like, "I can feel it." And, this isn't the house.
It's one across the street. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Or this is anecdotal. I'm just carrying this forward. One of the ex, Warren ghost hunters told this story to us directly. Of they were on a stakeout, like an overnight ghost hunting stakeout situation, and Ed, claimed to have found rosary beads on the floor in a room where previously they had investigated it, but the guy saw him basically drop it out of his pant leg. You know what I mean?
He had a hole in his
Whoops.
pocket, and he was that deceptive or?
Little magic.
Or whatever, he just had it up his pant leg and just had to shake it out. Oh, look, magical rosary beads, So he was not above, apparently, doing that sort of thing. And whether I thought, that it probably a lot of it fell under pious fraud, meaning where people, they believe, but they think it's okay to commit fraud to support something they know to be true, So, yeah, if you had to because, ghost hunting, in case you're not aware of this, is incredibly boring. It's like watching paint dry. Because you know why? Because nothing freaking happens. Because there are no ghosts. They're all just making their own entertainment when they're ghost hunting. They're just scaring each other, And it's just all power of suggestion. Did you hear that? I felt a chill and blah, 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 and I feel cold.
Ghost cold.
Yeah, and that's it. It's all self-generating nonsense. So you have to. But Ed was just a little bit more explicit and overt about generating the intrigue.
Yeah, he wanted. I mean, as a creator, compared to modern times, he wasn't even pushing that hard compared to what they do today. But still, look,
It's old school.
None of what they did was good. Nobody benefited from it. They made a ton of money. They made movies and all that stuff.
Oh man, watching the movies where Ed and Lorraine Warren themselves are depicted as characters.
Oh man, that couldn't be farther from reality.
Could not be further from the truth. It's so laughable. They're portrayed as these serious investigators. Meanwhile, they were really just uneducated jamokes. It's not to put too fine a point on it. They were just this cranky old couple that had no idea what they were talking about. The farthest thing you could possibly imagine from serious academic researchers.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a name for themselves. They were doing the college circuit, doing talks and everything, and they developed a career out of the whole thing. And I think once that starts, once they're like, hey, we're actually making kind of some, a little bit of money here, and then they might lean into making things seem a little bit more sensationalistic. Anyway, we went from pigs to Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There's actually one more. So another podcast, actually, same week, talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren, which is kind of, I don't know. What does that mean? Is there something in the stars aligning? Maybe it's them coming back from the dead. But they also mentioned, and they got, I think, a little more into the weeds of like Perry and you, Steve, specifically. So let's just listen to there a little bit. This last podcast on the left, they're a little raunchy podcast, let's say. So I think I skipped around the raunchier bits, but oh wait, let me
You keyed up.
Oop.
Anyways, Lorraine's back. Hey.
But the men from Ness, they also said up top in their article that Ed and Lorraine only had a lot of stories and very little proof, making the Warrens' New England Society for Psychic Research a research organization in name only. But for Ed, he said this...
Nesper.
Ness.
You see it right.
Okay, the New England Society for Psychic Research, NESPR. I just thought it would be confusing to have Ness and Nesper in the same story.
It is, you're right.
But
Nesper came first.
Yes, Nesper did come first.
And it's bigger.
Sure.
Yeah. And Ness, I mean...
Is it bigger? This is the claim that I wanted
Who cares?
In terms of members?
I think, yeah, I don't know. They're making a strong claim that we're not as well known as Nesper. They're joking, obviously, but I think...
It depends on if you count the SGU or not.
I mean, are they not... yes, I'm interested in why they're referencing the Ness. Like, our brand... Our prominent brand is the SGU.
Yeah, but Ness is the organization that investigated the Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Okay. Yeah, specifically. Yeah, and they're doing like a whole series on it. I think they're going like down a path of ghost hunting, and they just stumbled upon Ed and Lorraine, and then also the Ness's kind of takedown or investigation into them. But it was just a funny coincidence that two things in the same week we were mentioned, or the Ness was mentioned. So anyway, those are some of the fun things. So we do have some other TikToks, and maybe we'll save some for what we're actually going to record later. Were there any that you know what, the one that I wanted to discuss, since there's a bunch of people were asking about, is Terrence Howard.
Yeah, you hear about this, Steve?
Yeah,
Whoa.
Very aware of
that
him.
That one's probably a lot to maybe do for a TikTok. I don't know. How did you want to save one of those for TikTok, or
I don't know. It's kind
one of those levels.
50-50.
Yeah.
There's no point in addressing what he's actually saying. More to talk about him as a phenomenon. You know what I mean?
And the media tour he's been able to...
Yeah,
land.
Why he's getting any attention at all is really...
Well, I was not surprised to see him on Bro Rogan.
Yeah.
Of course, because he's incredulous.
Yeah.
He's credulous.
Credulous, rather.
Credulous.
I'm incredulous.
He's incredulous.
He's credulous. And that guy... So I was telling Ian before we started today, like, I think that actor might be having mental health issues.
Oh, he's definitely diagnosable.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah, there's something going on. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about him because of that. It's just, I think the most important thing here is what Steve said. The guy's getting a massive amount of media coverage, spreading all of this, disinformation, and it's pathetic. It's really pathetic, because the press is taking advantage of someone that clearly has something going on.
But it is. I think it is exploitative, but also, it is one of the ones where we have to think very carefully about. Maybe the best response is just to completely ignore it, because like any oxygen is probably a net negative thing. I do tend to read the comments to get a feel for what the public reaction is, and I think most people's reaction is this dude is high, kind of. So I don't know that he needs to be taken seriously enough to be taken down.
He doesn't just have one pseudoscience, though. He's got a plethora of crazy stuff going on.
No, he has seen the Akashic Files, and he was given visions basically of how to reimagine all of science in this just fanciful way that is meaningless. It's hard to even know what to say about it. It's just. It's just like making up magical. It's like if you were writing fiction, that's not very good.
I mean, that is exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
But then it's, promoted by Joe Rogan.
Of course.
And that's the biggest podcast, in the world, really.
And that I think is a much bigger subject, you know. But like, you play a little bit so people who haven't heard it.
Yeah, you got to get a
an
flavor
idea.
for what we're talking about here.
Yeah, okay. Here's a little flavor. So this one is he's rebuilding the periodic table.
Oh, yes, I
I believe
remember this part.
is.
Rebuild the periodic table. What do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the periodic table they have now,
Let's see.
it
the
looks
periodic table.
like a
Pull up
box.
an image of it.
It looks like a straight box.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E. 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, you know, their color. Like you can turn color back into sound based upon it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2 and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to Mendeleev's periodic table and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
And you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and I knew the
So you
relationship.
saw this in dreams?
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand.
Oh, Joe.
I mean, maybe he's just a graphic designer in
Oh my
his
God.
mind. I don't like.
I know, but look, there's a million of these guys out there, right? The thing that's happening right here, this video that we're seeing here, is Joe Rogan has a B-level actor who had some fame on his show. He's got face recognition, and he's giving him a platform. He's letting this guy spew his sensationalized nonsense on reality. And how does this benefit anybody on any interpretation? Like, how is this good for anything, for anybody? Is it fun to listen to him talk? Well, some people might find it interesting, but I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. He is completely detached from reality. You know, when you say, I am going to turn the periodic table on its head, and I'm going to show you the correct way that the periodic table should exist. You know, when people make statements like that, it's profoundly ignorant because, right? We're not saying someone is like innovating or pushing the information further down the road, making things more clear.
Well, first of all, it's a classic delusion of grandeur.
Exactly.
Right? It's absolutely classic, and it also demonstrates a rather, it's almost a textbook example of what we would call a flight of ideas, where he in his quote unquote explanation, he's frequently jumping 3 or 4 steps ahead. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it has the same tone, like without thinking that is something that needs to be explained, until, Rogan asks him what he means by that. And he's sort of, very, very loosely backfilling some sort of explanation without really explaining it. He's not building it up like a scientist would build it up. You know what I mean? It's just, there are these fanciful, superficial connections that's just all constructed of whole cloth and magical thinking. It's like, yeah, if you keep dividing light, like the frequency of light, eventually you get into the audible frequency. Okay, that's, of course, that's just division. I mean, what does that mean? It's like, if I change the number, it's a different number. Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's about the equivalent of what he's saying.
But I mean, right.
If I make the number smaller, it's smaller.
But right where he said, he dreamed about this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you're a prophet?
Yeah,
because
basically.
prophets, get information, like real information from
Yeah.
dreams, or so they say. So this is all wrapped up in a very neat little story of this guy either being prophetic, or he's a genius, or he's reading the Akashic Files. And then, Joe Rogan talks to his producer and says, hey, this guy wants to come on and talk about this and this and this. And Joe's like, yeah, let's do it, man. Sounds good. Good job, Joe.
Yeah.
You're doing humanity such a service, Joe. It really is impressive. How you do it every week too. How do you keep it up for so long?
It's just entertainment.
I know, but that's what it comes down to.
But again, it's like this new, not new, but worsening sort of culture of infotainment. It's like information as entertainment.
Yeah, and
the only thing that matters is the entertainment value.
He's
That's
just
the only
asking,
thing that
why
matters.
can't I interview someone that's speaking misinformation? Why can't I just ask questions? Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Because reality never gets a chance at the microphone.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have someone on there to go, well, actually, which is the skeptic
Right.
go-to phrase. Actually, no. If there was any legitimate science in here, scientists would happily adopt it, test it, prove it out, make it valuable, make it super accurate. Just like Steve says, if there was a medical intervention that would work, he'd use it. Doesn't care if homeopathy worked, we'd use it. But when it's proven to not work, when this nonsense, is quite obviously nonsense.
Well, a lot of it is just the equivalent of numerology, meaning that, saying that there are different frequencies or whatever, and individually the factoids may not be wrong. It's just what we say in science. It's like true, and unrelated, meaning it may be narrowly correct in some way, but it's completely irrelevant. Like, what does it tell us about the universe? Nothing. What is the pragmatic utility of his periodic table? Nothing. What's the pragmatic utility of the standard periodic table? Massive. It was a massive utility
But
scientifically.
Steve,
it helped us explore and understand the universe. It helps us understand, there's a reason why elements are in a column, because they share the same electrons in their outer shell or whatever. There's a physical reason for it that helps us understand how atoms work and how chemistry works. Whereas he's just talking, this is just all poetry. I see this a lot. This is sort of the poetry as science, right? Because there's some kind of there's a circular pattern with colors and wavelengths and whatever. It's just all nonsense.
Steve, can you disprove everything that he said? Asked someone in the chat.
What do you mean? But as I said, some of it is not even wrong. You know what I mean? It's like, what's he actually claiming?
Yeah, that the truth is being hidden or something like that.
Well, once you get to that level, then
yeah,
yes, we could disprove that. That's not. There's no conspiracy here to suppress his magical genius. It's just that he hasn't published anything in a digestible format that's falsifiable or that means anything. You'll notice that nothing in what he said is, and therefore. What? What does that mean?
But
what's the practical
that's
application?
The pattern here.
How does it help our understanding? It's just, look at these connections that I've made. Aren't I a genius? I saw it in the vision.
Well, you haven't listened to his 15-hour speech on this. So
no, but I think it's unfortunately, somebody was saying why they understand why we're addressing it, but they would like us to talk about things that interest us and inspire us.
We do that too.
Yeah, and we will do that. But we do need to talk about this because first and foremost, the reason why we're here is we're critical thinkers and we represent reality, right?
Well,
we're here to basically express how to get to the truth, what the truth is. And when we hear stuff like this on Joe Rogan, 300 million people listening to this guy's podcast, the editorial policy there is so paper thin that they let this guy on, no refutation of anything that he says. That is all bad. And we have to talk out against this. And again, I feel sorry for the actor. I think he's got problems. I think that, it's a sad thing to see someone like this get this type of media attention. Almost like, oh my God, look at how crazy he is. That's what the follow-up to Joe Rogan.
It's kind of, it is a freak show kind of a exploitation, especially like an intellectual freak show, basically.
But the point is, what Steve was saying is, this information is so bad, it's so flimsy, that it doesn't even deserve people to sit down and have to unwind all the crap that he says. First of all, anybody that makes a claim, it's up to them to prove their information. It's not up to, if it was up to us to disprove everything that's false out there, that's 1,000 lifetimes. This guy has a position. He's got things to say. He's giving his information, but he doesn't deliver any of the meat that would qualify it as being legitimate. And that is 100% up to the person making the claims.
So, and part of what we do is distinguish real science from fake science, right? And this is blatantly fake science. But there are different flavors of fake science. It's not all the same. This falls under a particular type of fake science. It's crank science in that it's like complicated, and it could be like internally, very complex. But there's no of the actual process of science. There's no like, let's carefully define our terms. Let's research every element of the claim that as we build up slowly over time from the ground up. This is I've heard lots of analogies about this, about like science builds things up from the ground up, whereas pseudoscience just tends to impose things from the top down, right? He's just saying, I saw it in the Akashic files, boom, look at this pretty pattern I have. But it's based on air. It's based on nothing, right? I mean, how could he show that anything that he's saying has any relationship to reality? So anyway, it is like the numerology thing. It's like, I went through the Bible and I found this pattern of connections. Like, okay, but what does it mean?
Right.
What does that tell us? It's just, you're just doing just naked pattern recognition at that point in time,
Yeah.
And this is not even interesting. It's like, it's almost like he's almost entirely imposing this pattern onto reality.
I mean, we got some pushback on TikTok from this one guy. We need some smarties to debunk him instead of just giggle at him.
Well, first off, we didn't laugh at him, and I've made it very clear I feel sorry for the guy. So
yeah, we're saying he shouldn't be made a.
He's being used. The actor is literally being used to get clicks. You know what I mean?
He's being used by cynical media as an intellectual freak show, and that's wrong. It's unethical, in my opinion. He should not be given any kind of airtime, because this is the. Again, we're in a world without editorial filters anymore, and you could argue endlessly about whether we were better off with them or without them. But whatever you think is the case, this is the downside of having no editorial filters, is that this kind of stuff gets through and gets as much exposure as anything else. It's like on an equal footing. It's all just infotainment now, right?
Yeah.
There's no reality. There's no
like the
quality control. There's no
reality check
scholarship.
is
It's just all infotainment.
Like for a scientist to get to the point where they're on the Joe Rogan show and they're giving it their information and whatever their circle of expertise is. What has taken place for that person is, a decade of education, then getting a specialty or developing a specialty, then proving themselves out, proving their findings out, and then that information can be considered legitimate and trustworthy, especially if it's been through any peer review process and that type of thing. Where this guy literally told us that he got his information from his dreams. His dreams. I mean, so that's the difference. We talk about being qualified or not qualified. Like, let me explain it in a way that might hit home better. So you're having a heart attack and you go to the hospital, and you have a guy that goes, I dreamed about how to help people with heart attacks, versus a medical professional who's been doing it for 30 years. Who do you want to give you the attention that you need and help that you need, right? It's the same exact thing. It's the same thing. You can't claim I had a dream and therefore this is correct and expect people to just nod along and go with it. Like, in order for him to present his information, he'd have to do it in a way that would show his information, show the way that he developed it, how he got to his conclusions, the methodologies, all of that stuff. And that's not what's going on here.
It'd be pretty cool if it came to be true, or like if he just like dreamt it up and then this is all accurate. I don't know what he's trying to say, but like,
well, again, that's like someone said it should be easy to prove him wrong. But he's not even wrong. You're not getting it. He's not even wrong, meaning that he's not even making a scientific claim in a coherent, falsifiable fashion. He is just saying, look, there are these patterns. I'm going to rearrange the periodic table, ignoring why it's arranged the way it is in the first place. He didn't say anything about that, or even express any understanding of why the periodic table is expressed the way it is. And no one is calling to quote unquote cancel him. No. Just stop that.
Yeah, who's saying cancel him? I mean, the guy.
We're saying not giving somebody a platform is not canceling them. It's having standards. It's saying we can make editorial decisions, like an editorial policy about what qualifies, as worthy of, using your platform to spread your message to however many people you get to.
I mean, yeah,
is
like
not canceling.
It's the
it's
idea
saying
that
there's editorial standards.
A platform doesn't owe anybody anything, right?
Yeah.
Like we have a platform on our podcast. Should we bring the guy on and have to nod along with everything that he says, or should we represent science, a scientific method, the way that information is vetted so we can trust it, right? Again, would you want this guy designing a jet engine for you? No. Absolutely not. Of course not. Because, somebody said he has 97 patents. Anybody can file patents.
Yeah.
It takes money. That's all it takes. The patents mean it's been time-stamped. That's all a patent means.
That's also literally in the textbook description of delusion of grandeur is multiple patents.
Yep.
Which don't really lead to anything. It's just that they think their ideas are so novel and fantastical that they need,
So I just looked it up. He does have patents, but they're...
you know what? So did our
a lot of
crazy
design.
uncle, who was ultimately diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Not for
Yeah.
nothing. Seriously.
He did make good homemade vinegar, though.
He did make
we'll
good
give
homemade
that to
vinegar,
him.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it was the same thing. We've actually personally lived through this.
Yeah.
This kind of like off-the-hook delusion of thinking that you understand the universe at a deep level when it's all just completely made up. And like it's so outside, so tangential to reality, you're like, it's not even it's not even debunkable. It's just completely nonsensical. And yet the whole thing, it was the same thing, but he wasn't famous. He was the exact same guy. He just wasn't a famous actor.
Yeah.
And so he died in anonymity, and nobody beyond his family got subjected to his crazy nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the pushback that we're getting in chat is pretty typical, and I understand where you guys are coming from when you say, can you prove that his information is wrong? There is a methodology to dealing with information like this, right? The very first thing is we are not obligated to prove the statements that other people make. Their statements need to be proved by the person
Well, you have to
making
get up to
them.
deck first. You have to get on base, right? You have to present it in a way that's worthy of evaluation. Not everything is worth a detailed evaluation and examination. You have to even gift it, because there's so much stuff out there. Also, you have to understand how this works, right? Is that this is a bottomless pit of nonsense. Each individual person the world is full of a million of these people. Again, this guy just happens to be an actor. And they're a bottomless pit of volumes of such nonsense. You could, in 100 lifetimes, you could never go through it all.
Yeah.
And believe me, once you get any kind of presence as somebody who is a science communicator, what happens is people send you their tome of nonsense for you to examine in detail.
Yeah.
Tell me where I'm wrong. And then, which I mostly ignore, but if depending on what mood I'm in, I might say, depending on how coherent they are, when they send it our way, it's like, well, can you give me an executive summary? Literally give me a one-page summary of what the new bit is that you're claiming here and why I should take it seriously. That any scientist can do that, right? Any scientist could summarize their research to a layperson in a brief in a brief summary that sort of keys in on what is new and interesting about what it is they're claiming. And they can give progressively longer and more detailed summaries depending on your level of background and your scientific knowledge, all the way to technical papers that only other experts can understand, right? But the cranks universally cannot do it. They never meet my challenge to do that. They cannot do it because they have no executive summary. Because there is no coherent new bit. It's like, read my 3,000-page essay. It's like, no, I don't want to read your 3,000-page essay. I want you to give me an executive summary. Well, you can't boil it down. Well, that's because you don't have an idea. You don't have a coherent idea. That's why you cannot boil it down. Until you can do that, until you can give a scientific executive summary, you don't have an idea.
Yeah.
You don't have anything worth my time and attention. You have to earn my time and attention. You don't get it automatically. Just like you have to earn the time and attention of the scientific community, because they don't have infinite time and attention either, or infinite resources. Every scientist, every prominent scientist, the head of a department at any university, they will tell you the same story. They occasionally get these tomes from cranks who have overturned, like, I've disproved Einstein, I've reinvented the periodic table, but it's all classic crankery.
And typically
and they go right into the circular file because it's absolutely not worth your time. And the other thing is, you think, well, just go, just tell them why they're wrong. That doesn't work. They didn't science their way to their position in the first place.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to tell somebody who thinks that they've seen reality in a vision that they're wrong?
Yeah.
How can you tell them, like, do you think that facts matter when you're dealing with that? Do you think that logic matters? Clearly, it doesn't.
Trust us.
Clearly, it
we've
doesn't.
tried many
times. We are coming from a position of a lot of experience. Plus, I'm also a neuroscientist, and I recognize the signs and symptoms of mental illness when I see it. Again, I'm not diagnosing anyone over a video or anyone at a distance. I'm just saying that's a legitimate concern, and you should not assume that everyone is either an honest player or is operating in a scientific fashion here. There are other considerations you have to consider, and playing into somebody's delusions is actually counterproductive. And so when somebody is throwing up a lot of red flags, you need to at least be sure that first you're not doing any harm. And I would bet in this case, this is just all harm from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Certainly, you would need to convince me that it was not be harmful, given all the red flags. There would be, just as a professional, it would be unethical for me to basically exploit what I consider might be somebody's mental illness. Again, I can't make an official diagnosis at a distance, but I would have concerns about that, and that's why I wouldn't really touch it from that point of view. Here, I'm just talking generally about like understanding the difference between science and pseudoscience, what crankery looks like, how this sort of represents, and what the experience is of professionals and science communicators in dealing with these kinds of claims.
Yep.
The best thing to do is to ignore it,
Yep.
is to completely ignore it. At most, I might give people a quick feedback on, this is what you got to do if you want to be taken seriously. Good luck to you. You know what I mean?
I look
That's
at it like junk mail. I go through my mail. There's stuff like, I got to open it. Oh, that's bullshit, and I throw it away. Right? That's it. Like there's a lot of legitimate stuff that comes. It's like submitting a screenplay to a production company.
Yeah.
They read thousands of screenplays a week. They get tens of thousands of
if
submissions.
you send an unsolicited screenplay to a movie company, a
production
producer,
company,
they throw it away.
Yep.
They will not crack the seal.
Yeah.
Because if they crack the seal, they're just opening themselves up to you suing them, claiming they stole your idea.
That's right.
You know why? Because there's no new ideas out there. Anything, you could make some connection between whatever you wrote and some movie that comes out over the next 10 years, and you'll say that they stole your idea. So unless they have a relationship with you or you came through some kind of internal mechanism or whatever, if it's just an outside unsolicited script, they toss it, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah, so anyway, I think overall this is an interesting exercise. It's another occurrence of someone spouting a lot of made up misinformation. And look, the thing about the tones might be correct if you have it and you get down to an audible frequency, okay, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, that's numerology. It's like, I found all these connections and these numbers all can divide into it. Okay, it's just meaningless. It just doesn't mean anything.
40.5 hertz is the note E, so there's that.
Yeah.
So maybe everything else he said is
That's
correct.
right.
Yeah, but how do you get to that from hydrogen?
Right.
Like, that's the thing.
And then
I don't
what
know.
does
Like,
it mean
if
anyway?
you divide it enough, you get to this. Okay.
Like, so what? That at some point, if you keep lowering the frequency of something, that you'll get to
connect it to something actually related to reality and of pragmatic value, and that's what we never get.
Like humans, like just as an example, like a cool way to think about this, like, or he says that, and then you're like, okay, so you have the electromagnetic spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of that spectrum. It's a huge thing, and there's a little sliver of it where humans can see.
Yeah.
And then you take all the sounds that could exist, and there's a little piece of it that humans can hear. There's so much that we don't hear that's going
Yeah.
on. We hear and see what we need to survive. To put it very simply, right? We could talk about that for hours, but we need to hear what's going on in our environment because it tells us what's going on. It's also great to see things because we could visually, match those two things up and interact with the environment more accurately. This guy's saying that the tone of the periodic elements is viable means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So what that if you keep having it and you lower the number, like Steve said, and it gets down into the audible range? So what does that even mean? What is it? What is he proving or disproving with that statement? Nothing.
I think we beat that dead horse.
Right.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
like make an actual claim, and I'll debunk it.
There
I'll
it
examine
is.
Make an actual claim.
I don't know why you keep talking about this. Like, we got to move on.
Well,
Let's get back to the pigs.
Yeah.
Or the
pigs were
bladders.
more interesting.
Yes.
It is.
No, but this was a quick lesson. We need to talk about stuff like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Well, because TikTok and the internet is full of it, and again, because you need to understand all the different flavors of pseudoscience. They
Yeah.
are
There's a
different.
lot.
They are different.
It's a pretty chart, though. I will give him that. It's pretty.
It's pretty, yeah.
It was cool. That
Nice design.
curve thing, I liked it. It was.
It's
I,
cool.
I can jive
You
with
should
that.
go into graphic design. it seems
Exactly.
like.
All right, moving on.
Either way, Joe Rogan sucks.
Did it again. Joe Rogan did it again.
He did it again.
Bro Rogan.
Pro Rogan, that guy. So yeah, that was the. So
Jay,
which
you're
one's?
just jealous.
Yeah, that's true.
I am so jealous.
You wish you had 300
Look,
million
I
people
said this before. Yeah, I'd like to have more money. Who wouldn't like to have more money? Who wouldn't like it? It's not the point. I'm a critical thinker. I'm a skeptic. I've been doing this for 30 years. Joe Rogan insults me. My intelligence. He insults the world that I want to create because of his misinformation and him giving people the space to talk their nonsense and infect other people with misinformation. Look at the freaking result of social media. Look at what's happened to our politics in the United States.
We're not going
All
there.
right,
Right.
there we go.
Oh,
And we're
going
moving
to
on.
pigs.
So,
Go back to
hey,
pigs.
back to pigs. So which ones did you want to save for
Well, I want to
TikTok?
do what remind me what they were.
So
again.
there's ADH signs of the gut
Nah.
biome thing. That might be a good gut microbiome in the chat. You do that one. Reiki.
Yes, we
Yeah,
could do
okay.
Reiki.
That is a good one. Herbal medicine book. That's really popular.
Maybe.
Maybe we could just do that, right? Like we'll just look at it because it's
Again, there's not any. There's not. It's just.
TikTok is promoting
There's
it.
no
really.
specific claim. I would just have to.
No.
We talk about all of herbal medicine. It's like a huge topic.
Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah, that's true. It's just that TikTok seems to be paying creators to
Somebody
promote this
asked if,
book and
if Joe
whatever.
Rogan would ever have us on. He doesn't like
No,
Steve.
He doesn't like Steve.
He specifically said he will never have me by name on his show.
On the podcast too.
Yeah.
So Jamie even brought it up. It's pretty funny if you find the pod. It was a couple. Years
Yeah, I mean,
ago.
it'd be great to talk to him. I would love.
I would
that.
go on his show if he wanted me to go
Absolutely,
on.
be
I'd go
great.
on, but
it's
he decided because I'm not convinced by the medical evidence for the utility of cryotherapy that to him that was over the top.
Yeah.
That rules me out as a potential guest.
Yeah.
yeah.
Whatever. Come
I
on.
dissed cryotherapy.
And Joe
gotta
Rogan's
find that
nothing
cryo.
compared to what Oprah did. Oprah had.
Oh, yeah, Oprah-
massive audience.
Yeah, she was a massive negative influence on our culture. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She created Dr. Oz.
and a lot of others.
And a lot of
And
others.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of the.
She has a very,
Hey.
very, wall of shame going on, bad legacy. It's because, listen, this is the multimedia environment that we live in. What sells, right? We living in a world with a positive feedback loop that emphasizes clicks, and what drives clicks? Eyeballs, asses in seats, clicks, whatever you want to use.
compression.
What drives all those things, what drives media interaction is sensationalism, outrage, fantasy, that sort of thing. Not careful consideration of evidence, not scholarship, not nuanced opinions or analysis. So our entire media ecosystem is incentivized to destroy society, and that's what's happening. And no, fortunately, it's not the only thing that's happening in society. I think there's other influences as well. We do still have institutions for now, anyway. There's a lot of other things that do happen as well. But in terms of the social media and mass media and information, it is our incentives are all completely perverse and backwards to what they should be.
It's a total
Rogan
mess.
is really just a symptom of that. He's one particular symptom of that complete perverse situation that we have created for ourselves.
And I wish that Joe could acknowledge that. You know what I mean? Like the guy's making money like
Yeah,
hand
don't
over-
pretend you're something else.
Yeah,
though.
like why?
Yeah.
I just wish he'd be like, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm having these people on. I want. I think it's interesting or whatever. But for him, anybody that gets above a certain watermark, when they have an audience, and lots of people are listening, and they have
But
those
Jay,
ears.
when people, you're not going to get to that unless you've sold your soul to the devil. And then once you have, why would you reverse yourself just because now you're making the real money?
Yeah, I
Right?
know.
That's not never
It sucks. I
gonna
mean, I used to wear rose-colored glasses. I
Yeah.
grew up when I was a kid. I used to think, people really can't be. Yeah, they can. People can be unbelievably motivated by greed, and they don't care. Not caring is a problem.
Remember when Phil Donahue was controversial?
Yeah. Oh my
Like
God.
Phil Donahue was one of the first daytime talk show hosts.
God, to give him anything to have that level back.
Oh my God! And like 80% of his shows were fine. They were just maybe superficial, maybe they were whatever, but they were fine. But then he would like once a week, he would have a clearly sensationalist topic on just to drive viewership. And then he had to defend himself. He was clearly embarrassed by it. Like, yeah, but if I want to stay on TV, you got to do this sort of thing, right? And there was this whole, a lot of the wringing of hands over Phil Donahue. He was nothing. He was, again, compared to what is now the normal, he was a responsible, sober journalist. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What Ian and I watch a lot of TikTok to sift through crazy stuff to find for the content here and everything. And I have a very brief TikTok story for you guys. Just my experience. Okay, it was a new social media. The first time I heard about it, Ian told me about it when we were in New Zealand. Remember? I remember where we were. We were in that field of those pink flowers.
Oh yeah.
And you first told me about TikTok. I'm like, TikTok? What
The
a weird name.
lupines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story as short as possible. So I get into this relationship with TikTok where I'm like, well, I need to go on. I'm doing it. And then I found that I got addicted to like the scroll and like the next thing and the next thing because like it's very addictive. You get a
That's the
dopamine hit every time you move your thumb. And I realized I'm just wasting an incredible amount of my time.
Yeah.
It is profoundly addicting. And it got me, and I was really angry at myself because I know all this stuff. I know. I've already gone through the ringer with social media. I've already pulled myself out of the addiction to multiple social media platforms. But man, TikTok is like the stickiest one of all of them. It's really good at keeping your interest because again, these videos are not long. It's all that short form stuff that is so easy to digest. So anyway,
Short attention span theory.
I recommend that you guys like just pay attention to your, TikTok has a thing where it'll tell you how long you've been watching it. And, think of a reasonable amount of time. Do you want to waste an hour of your life every day on TikTok? Is a half an hour too much? I put mine at 15 minutes and I hit that in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what happened. The first time I'll turn it on, 15 minutes. And then 15 minutes went by. I'm like, holy shit.
I mean, it's fine to have a certain amount of your day that's just for decompressing mentally, for entertainment, for mind candy.
TV time.
Yeah, whatever.
Essentially.
But it's all about moderation and balance. So make sure you have some non-screen activities in your daily life.
A lot.
Get some physical activity,
touch
some
grass.
personal
Yes.
interaction.
Get some sunlight.
Just do a bunch of different things. If you find yourself doom scrolling for hours and hours a
God.
day and it's consuming your life, just like anything. And every generation has had this thing too. Remember when we were young, it was video games. These kids today
Oh my gosh.
are spending hours a day playing video games and loving it.
Yeah.
And I still spend time playing video games.
I would prefer my kids play video games. Like, look,
Then
any time
doom
that you
scroll?
spend on social media, just play video game. I mean,
At least you're getting better at the game.
but it is, but what we are.
You develop some actual skills. It's more interactive.
That's true.
There was
but-
no proof that video games increased violence and all
No,
that stuff.
no.
But what we do have is, unfortunately, we can prove that social media has a very bad effect on societies with its misinformation and the information bubble.
The dopamine hit thing that reminds me of a video game.
Yeah.
Of what's it called? Portal 2.
Yeah, Portal 2.
Portal
is
2.
addictive. Oh, I gotta tell you something.
Oh yeah.
In 2 days,
Yeah.
Fortnite is going to have. Wait, hold on, because I think Steve needs to hear this.
Okay.
Fortnite is going to have a Fallout mashup.
Oh yeah.
They're going to have skins.
Oh, for Fallout.
And they're
yeah.
going to have, it's going to be good, Steve. If there's ever a time for you to play Fortnite with me.
So anyway, Portal 2.
Portal 2.
So at one part of the storyline, the AI,
Yeah.
the spoiler alert, the friendly AI who becomes a maniacal evil AI, they're programmed to test, right? To put the player through a series of tests,
Yes,
which is the game.
Yep.
And whenever he does that, he gets the AI robot equivalent of a dopamine hit. He gets a positive. He's like, oh, that feels so good. And then he does it again, and it's a much shorter-lived feedback benefit. And he's got to do it again, and each time it gets less satisfying and shorter, so that he's just increasing. And then he has to increase the intensity and the, you know what I mean? The
And that's
danger
drugs,
and-
friends.
Yeah,
That's
the
you're addicted to
AI
drugs.
feedback loop. It was a funny little element of that game. That was a
Definitely.
very
Brilliant.
fun, well written and executed.
It had
game.
so many little touches to it that made
Yeah.
it so special. It's very good.
A lot of Easter eggs too.
Yeah. So let's do another TikTok.
I have one. Maybe this is why you're not a fan of cryotherapy. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. Let me just unmute this.
I just looked at the evidence and it doesn't. It's
Oh.
not compelling.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, this is also maybe a reason for why.
Okay.
Pulse.
Oh, I think I saw this.
I'm starting compressions.
Cap Medical's here.
I'm sorry.
Nancy, TK.
Yeah, he might be dead. So that's apparently it's like, what is it? I don't know. What show is this, chat? Do you remember? I don't even know. Rob Lowe obviously is the guy who pushes down
Yeah.
the chest. He was
my
stuck
gut-
in a cryotherapy tank.
My gut is telling me. My initial reaction was that wouldn't happen now. It may be though. I mean, I don't know.
Well, where are the ribs? I mean, would they freeze that hard to shatter? Like,
Yeah, I mean, so it is liquid nitrogen level. I mean,
I guess that is pretty cool.
That
yeah.
might be possible to do that because there's a cavity there where your lungs are.
But if you were that cold, wouldn't he know just from putting his hands on them?
Yeah, he would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting. I don't know.
I mean, there'd
Anyway,
be no
it's a
point.
goofy
There
video.
would be no point in doing compressions on somebody who was
Frozen.
Frozen.
Yeah. I mean, if
right.
they-
I mean, obviously they did that because it was a
They didn't
dramatic
know.
visual.
Yeah.
It would never actually happen.
Yeah.
We do and I participated in this as did different levels of my training. When there is a code for somebody who has hypothermia, right? It's a hypothermic code.
Mr. Blue, is that the code?
And it's exhausting because you basically have to do CPR until you warm them up to a reasonable body temperature,
Oh wow.
which could take an hour. So like I was involved in one where I was literally doing compressions.
There, did it again.
We had to tag team it. Like we would do 20 minutes of CPR at a time. Had to keep
Oh my
them
God,
going.
that's a long time to do that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a massively long time.
People can actually get hurt from doing CPR on somebody.
Well, you mean the person who's having it done on them?
No, they always get hurt. If you do it
They always
right,
get hurt.
your ribs should be cracked. But
if you're doing it right, you should crack a couple of
But the
ribs.
person that is applying the CPR themselves can get hurt.
How? I've never seen that.
Yeah, I can tell you, but it's.
All right.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
I mean, you can get carpal tunnel
Kinda
syndrome.
not-
I guess.
yeah, exactly.
So we got.
So we have some other TikToks that we could get to.
Are these?
in the
Are we
notes.
moving to the Steve only stuff
We
now?
could
or-
do the Steve only stuff. Let me just look through the final couple and see if we have any other ones that we want to pick out. So we were gonna.
We could do the dudes because I'm not going to bother.
Oh, those
responding to
guys,
them.
The no pictures of Earth.
Yeah.
Ding dongs, and the look at the meteor. Meteor looks weird. Yeah, those ones are fun. We can do those. So we were gonna do for TikTok ADHD. Oh no, sorry, Reiki. Maybe we could do the herbal.
I want to do like the guy who says he could end the flat Earth
Oh
debate.
yes, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's a flat earther, or he's.
I don't know if he's a
knows?
flat earther or not.
And then remember the one where we did with the person who's like staring. He said you should stare into the sun because it makes your eyes stronger or something like that.
Yeah.
We did it a couple weeks ago. It seems like that dude is like completely Poe.
Blind?
Just no. Like
Is
well,
a
that would be
Poe.
funny. Is a Poe. Like the next video we could maybe look at that is just like so kind of tongue in cheek. I
Yeah.
feel like, but it's indistinguishable. It gets to that
Right.
point where
It's
we talk
indistin-
about
it's
that.
indistinguishable. Yeah.
All right, let's maybe play with a few of those. So let me pull up this
Reiki.
one. Okay,
The
Reiki
world
one
is
we'll
definitely
save.
over here.
We'll watch these.
Reiki?
We'll watch these dingbats.
Wait, don't scroll. This affects every single person on Earth.
That's the one I
So
want
you'll-
to
That's the one.
address.
Yeah, let me pause that one because that one will keep him. He's the one that was also pontificating, walking through the forest. Remember, he was talking about cholesterol and neurodegenerative something or other.
Is that
You know
him?
what? I think that's the same guy. He's like, this is a completely connected point or something. Like, it was like, I forget. We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Steve, we have to come up with a media savvy class.
Oh,
a legit
media literacy.
Yeah, like just be able to navigate through the spigot of misinformation that's out there now.
So these guys have a podcast, which somebody in the comments says podcasting equipment should be made more expensive.
Yeah.
Which is good, true. But yeah, so these guys, I think there are no real pictures of Earth. So let's look,
except for these.
except for the ones that they show. Oh, let me just mute that.
But there is no real... The world is definitely not ready to hear this. But there is no real picture of the Earth.
What do you mean?
Every picture that's been released that's on Google and or released from NASA is a 3D render. There's only 2 pictures the Earth claims to have in its vault. Let me show you them right now.
You're telling me that my iPhone 3G wallpaper isn't real?
That's the blue marble. The blue marble, as known from popular media and your iPhone 3, this claims to be an actual photo of the Earth from space.
It's claiming that?
You want me to show you the other one? The other one's hilarious. This is the real one, apparently.
What?
It's called the pale blue dot.
Who took that?
I've taken better pictures whenever my phone is in my pocket accidentally, bro. That's what this looks like.
What?
I mean, do you want to comment on that?
We'll take the second thing first. I mean, that's the pale blue dot. That is a picture of the Earth taken by Voyager from millions of miles away.
83 million?
Carl Sagan was behind that. He specifically wanted, because he was involved, obviously with the Voyager program, he says, once it gets out far enough, we should have it turn around and take a picture of the Earth from deep space. And it's one of the best science pictures of all time.
It's one of the best pictures of all time.
Yeah.
3.7 billion miles. Wow.
3.7 billion was that?
Wow.
Yeah. So, and
from the sun.
It was the idea was to show how small and insignificant the Earth is in the vastness of space. That from even a quote unquote little bit away in cosmic time scale, like the Voyager was still well within our solar system. The Earth is just a pale blue dot, right? That's the entire Earth in that little pixel right there. It was sort of a poetic, emotional kind of a thing. So the fact that these guys clearly don't know what it is, or they're pretending not to know what it is, they missed the entire point of it, and they're just trying to be cynical, or clever, like, oh, that's a terrible picture. That's the evidence that the Earth, blah, blah, blah. And then everything else is just, straight up denialism. It's like, we have lots of pictures of the Earth from various levels of orbit. We have satellites in geosynchronous orbit all the time. You've seen weather satellite imagery. We have spy satellites that could look at any part of the Earth. And we have lots of pictures of the Earth from the moon, like the one that's right there now. Now, when they say, like, these are all renderings, it's not really an accurate term, but it certainly is true that all of the pictures have undergone some kind of processing because they're digital. Every digital picture undergoes processing. That's just the nature of how they function. You can, sometimes professional digital photographers will take their pictures in raw format so that they can manually do all the processing and make all the decisions about how to actually process it, for artistic or just professional purposes. But you never look at the raw images, right? That in any case, it was just naive. It's just naive on so many different levels. It doesn't mean it isn't a picture of Earth. It is a picture of. Some of them are mosaics. Because if you have, if you're, low Earth orbit, where you're not taking like the whole picture of the whole Earth all at once, or you would need a really wide angle lens. You could take a high resolution picture of a part of the Earth, take a bunch of them, and then stitch them all together into a mosaic picture. It's still a picture of the Earth. That's just the mechanism that was used to take it. But there are plenty of one-shot pictures of the whole globe Earth.
But Steve,
the baseline claim is nonsense.
This guy in chat named Charles says it's only real if you see it with your own eyes.
Yeah.
That's also why evolution is false.
Exactly. If you weren't sitting there for billions of years watching animals do their thing.
So nothing happened in the past.
This is an interesting one from Malavander. As a CG artist, when we want to make a CG Earth, we use a photo for reference to make the texture. Yeah. How else would you make a CG Earth?
Right.
Like, it'd be how you don't really hand paint that or draw
Right,
all that.
right.
It's like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but this is a great example of what's out there today. I mean, you have these guys like.
I don't, but these
They
could
might be
a poke
rage
too.
baiting. Yeah, they might be rage baiting because it's like
Yeah.
some of the stuff we could. Let's watch the next one. 'Cause
I would not assume that these guys are for real.
Yeah, like this one
You never know.
specifically calls out skeptics, so I figured we watch this one a little bit.
So claymation.
Well, so you think this is not even real? 'Cause I don't think it's fake. I just think
so fake, dude. It looks like 2 gray potatoes. It looks so man-made.
Like-
That makes no sense.
so. You think this is a faked?
I think that
Like-
this is such a bad fake scale of what an asteroid looks like. Even whenever it gets
he
close.
knows what an
Like,
asteroid
what is
looks like.
that?
Yeah.
Because these could either be absolutely massive or this could literally be a pebble. I was so shocked whenever I opened up the comments to see how well the brainwashing is working.
Amazing how they are able to precisely time the impact of something traveling. Oh, they're traveling 20,000 miles per hour.
There's
Wait,
absolutely
no.
no way.
They're
that's-
not. If they were traveling 20,000 miles per hour, it would just be like.
Yeah, right. 'Cause they're
It wouldn't be like a slow.
It wouldn't. Yeah, the math of having a.
It kind of presumes, obviously, that the other object is stationary. If one is traveling 20,000 miles
Well, even
per
if they're
hour, you know,
if
like-
they're traveling at 20,000 miles per hour relative to each other, that's fine. The space
Yeah.
is big. It would still take a long time
Yeah.
to get closer. But anyway, it's just I don't know. This is like Beavis and Butthead entertainment level, you know.
Yeah, I know.
bro.
Not
So,
even.
like, dude, that looks so fake.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Yeah,
like,
the requirement to do the show is to get high 15 minutes before they go on. Whatever. I mean, the internet's filled with these guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've seen this guy 1,000 times.
It's hard to say at this with this. They're pretty convincingly aloof.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would be able to pull off the Poe with that sincerity. So I mean, you know, I don't know, but who knows? They might be just fantastic actors. Good for them. But also, you know, it is one of those issues where it's like,
or so it's
is
not
it
that they're.
real?
It's like there's such a gray zone. It's like they don't really care.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know.
It's not even rage bait. It's like I don't give a fuck bait.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So speaking of that, let's maybe look at that one guy. He was somebody that we watched before, and this one it just screamed Poe to me because it's so.
Bless means be less you. Appreciate is appreciate. Awake means awake, which is an event where the family gather together before a funeral. Mourning is an expression of sorrow for someone's death. Job is Hebrew for prosecution. You are taught to specifically say the vowels in this order, where the last 3 words say I-O-U, because they are programming you to remain a slave. Every word you say is shaping your mind, and your mind is a mirror of your external world. This is why abracadabra means I create when I speak. The words I am can be used to direct vibrational
Why is
frequencies
he
into
wearing
your
rubber gloves in his
morphology.
own house?
That's his like whole thing. I don't know. It's like his shtick. Like he's a hacker or something. Like his whole shtick is like.
He could be a germaphobe.
It could be a germaphobe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he has a blister. In his,
Yeah, this
his little-
this right here to me, this is the pinnacle of.
But this is a Poe. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I don't know, but like this screamed so like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
but
it's
11th
also
grade
that-
deep.
It
It's
doesn't
also
matter
that-
anymore, guys.
Yeah, it
if
doesn't
they're a
matter.
Poe, they're still putting the information out there,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't know if they're legit or not. And it's this kind of thinking right here that I despise.
Well,
I
it's
despise it.
it's like the Terrance, Howard, whatever thing. It's just.
It's like,
Look, I've seen patterns, and I'm going to make believe that they mean something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know. It's just.
I don't even know what to say. It's like, okay, yes, there's,
This is what I get.
smaller
on-
words.
Yeah.
And you can break up words, and there's other words inside of words, and it means something, right? Because it's all been constructed. It's like, what the Christ do you do?
I know. This is what I get on my throwaway TikTok account where I'm looking for the crazy, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my
Oh,
god.
I know.
It's
It gets
just-
so.
It's bad. It's like.
But then there's also, again, that there is a conspiracy theory in there.
Right.
Right? It's like they somehow made this be the case, whoever they are. They have such fantastical control over language
Right.
that they control how we say the vowels, even though they're like in alphabetical order, I guess. How dare you make us say the vowels in alphabetical order?
Yeah.
Because that somehow is programming us subconsciously to be slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The one
got it.
thing that this
Gotcha.
person said that rings true to me is that, like, yes, your internal, maybe not exactly what they were saying, but the way that you think and the way that you talk to yourself can have an impact on your mental health.
Language does affect how we think.
Yeah.
That's a whole field of academic study.
Without a doubt. I mean, you can, for example, people who are depressed or suffering from some type of mental health could be saying negative things to themselves very quickly and semi-unconsciously. You could like throw a dig at yourself. And you need to interrupt those thoughts and replace them with something more positive, because you could convince yourself to become depressed.
But this is all superficiality.
Yeah,
this
but
is not even.
Yeah, but what this guy's doing is just nonsense
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Anyway, wow.
Anyway,
this is
so
a really
there's that one.
this is one of those episodes right here, Ian. Where
I know we're just throwing a bunch of stuff around.
yeah, but I mean, it is a little depressing, And
Yep.
if anybody knows who they are, I'd like to meet them.
Presumably, they do the same thing in every other language,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not just the
it has to
English.
be.
Yeah, like
Well,
A-E-I-O-U must also be the same in whatever.
Well,
Spanish.
if you learn Latin, you'll realize that so many languages are constructed from a previous language. What does it mean?
Right.
If you say fire, it's like, dude, what do you. I'm trying not to get angry today.
And failing.
No, but I'm cool. I'm cool, Steve.
These ones are a little less rage and
Nothing is
inducing.
Yeah, I'll do one more with you guys.
Maybe there was the Nothing Is Real lady, Dolores Cannon.
Oh, she's just a new age crank from
Yeah.
the 70s or something.
Yeah, it does seem like an old video, but it's one of those things that it like resurfaces.
Yeah,
on
I know.
TikTok.
It's just another life on TikTok.
So presumably, I think the ones that we have for TikTok that you're going to do is just Raiki and the guy in the woods. Did we have a third one? Proof of the Afterlife.
Yeah, we could. That's kind of a quick hit. We could.
Which one do you want to do now with Jay?
Let's just
maybe? Dolores.
Yeah, we could do Dolores.
All right, let's see what Dolores is all about real quick. Hold on, let me bring that here. Here we go. Dolores.
Nothing is real anyway. Everything is energy. Everything is illusion. This building where you're sitting right now
So energy isn't real.
did not even exist until you collectively chose to come here tonight or today.
What about
Wrap
the
your head
rats living in
around
the
that.
basement? Do they count?
Nope.
But why would you even say that? I mean, didn't.
I'm going to ask you to make sense, because every time I brought that up, they'll say, "What?"
Yep, with good.
It's like the Stephen King movie they had one time where nothing existed before they got there.
That's right. I mean, what you're doing is you're creating your own realities, and now you've created a huge group reality. And without the huge group reality, this wouldn't exist.
But this shows you, too, how powerful your mind is. Because everything you see, everything that's around you, everything in your life, you're creating and putting there.
Yeah, so just for background, that she is a pioneer of sort of new age philosophy. She was into, past life, regression, reincarnation kind of thing, hypnosis, and all kinds of, all the standard new age nonsense. So what she's saying there, again, is just this made-up philosophical, superstitious narrative. Just how does she know? Like, so which of course raises a very interesting question. If the building didn't exist until anyone interacted with it, how do you know it didn't exist?
Yeah, and then what happened to the building when they leave? What happens to the building?
Then it goes away.
Like, does there have to be a mind attached to something in order for it to exist?
Yeah. Isn't this, though, like the fact, if we don't look at the moon doesn't exist, but the fact that the moon exists proves God exists because he's looking at everything? Isn't there like some ontological thing to that? I feel like I've heard the Christian argument of that, but the New Age one is wacky, or somehow. Like,
what blows my mind is that, and I feel bad about this, but there are people out there who don't have the process in their mind to hear something like that and not go, that doesn't make any sense. Like, because there are people that go listen to her talk and they're like nodding along. It's like,
right.
Where is, and this is again why critical thinking needs to be taught in school, because people need to learn how to use their mind, how to think logically. Like, the first thing that should happen when you hear something like that, I'd like to think more people than not can and do this, is that their brain says, that seems very strange and unlikely. And then think about it a little bit more, maybe investigate it enough to go, oh yeah, this is all nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of thinking that we need.
Or even at a higher level, I mean, I would like people to be able to say, that's epistemological nonsense, right? That is what she's saying is just, first of all, it's a naked appeal to her own authority, right? Which is the guru phenomenon. That's what gurus do. They make these, absolutely broad, sweeping statements about reality that are based upon nothing but their own authority.
Yeah.
That's it. How do we know that? They know it because they saw it in a vision, right?
Yeah.
Or they know it
dreamed about it.
intuitively, or because they have some connection to the mystical universe or whatever. It's something unfalsifiable, unique to them. They're special, and they know they have this deep, profound knowledge about the ultimate nature of reality based on nothing but their own authority. And that's it. That is, a guru. And they just say it like it's a fact. And, they're so pleased with themselves that they're able to, and they are very dismissive of anybody who is questioning of that, or who has the reaction that you think that people should have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people go, what? As if that's not a normal reaction to have when somebody says something that's batshit crazy.
Like if I went down to this deli that I like, I get myself a grinder, and because I indulge every once in a while because there's a lot of calories.
A grinder? You mean a wedge?
A grinder.
How dare you?
Yeah, like a wedge, whatever.
Which
A
completely
a deli
an
sandwich.
AI would peg you as coming from Connecticut.
Yes,
called it a grinder.
but I grab a food that comes from a deli, a delicatessen, okay?
Yep.
And then I go home, and I put it on the counter, and I go and I get a drink, and I come back, and the fucking sandwich is gone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't look at it the whole time, Steve.
Right.
And I should have kept my eye on that goddamn sandwich.
I think you should have kept your eye on your dog.
Yeah, that's right. It's right. But I'm talking about levels here. So at what level, if we were going to just entertain this thought, because this is fun. This is whatever. I don't want to talk about the person. The idea here is fun to play with. Okay, so it doesn't exist unless a mind is focused on it. And how does this not rear its head in every corner of every aspect of our lives? Like, does my sandwich reappear as soon as my eyes fall back?
Right.
Right.
So here, this is how it works
in her world, in her
world.
Imagined reality.
Well, and also just in the New Age marketplace, right? Is that, first of all, it's unfalsifiable. Mm-hmm. Whenever you ask any penetrating question or propose any experiment that could actually distinguish her made-up New Age reality from actual reality.
And unfalsifiable means that you can't actually prove
it's
that what
unprovable.
they're saying is
It's like with that
wrong.
that comedian who said, I've grown to suspect that at night people secretly come into my house and replace all of my furniture with exact replicas.
Yeah, Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright. Uh-huh. And which is funny because you understand intuitively it's funny because there's no way you would know that, right? It's if they're exact replicas, then there's no way to distinguish them from than the original by definition. So, but anyway, so it's like, okay, so.
But Steve, your brain is so powerful, though.
But the thing is, you're getting to the second
yes,
part.
I know.
The first part is that, it doesn't exist when nobody's interacting with it or looking at it. It's like, okay, you can't possibly falsify that. The second thing, though, is just a way of ginning up this claim that your brain is so powerful it could affect reality.
It creates reality.
It's creating reality moment to moment.
Steve, but wait, this is good.
Therefore, buy my bullshit whatever.
But this is
and
good.
You could change your reality because your mind is so powerful you can cure your own cancer.
Ian, follow me on this.
Oh, boy.
If I forget about the sandwich, I go to get a drink, and then I'm like, oh, the dog's outside. I go outside. Next thing you know, I'm doing some yard work, and I come back. And then I pay attention to my sandwich again, and it reappears into existence, it would not have gotten old and funky. Like the mayo and mustard wouldn't have turned into like something that's really nasty after leaving it.
No, but
for
you're
an hour.
imagining it as if it had aged that whole time.
Oh, it's all my fault, as usual, as my wife says.
She's right. She's absolutely correct.
All right. All right.
Yeah, but but again, don't miss the big point, though.
Yes.
It's like you can't ever prove that what I'm saying is wrong, that my beta bullshit guru worldview is wrong, but I'm going to use it to make you believe that if you buy my bullshit whatever,
If you buy her vitamin,
crystal vitamin, whatever
Chakra, yeah.
you can cure your cancer because your mind is that powerful.
Yes, you need a powerful mind,
right?
people.
So, and the thing is, that may sound cynical and like that this is all a transparent marketing thing, but it is. That's exactly what this is. It is all a transparent marketing ploy to sell bullshit to the gullible.
Ian,
that's what it is.
Ian, whenever we talk about stuff like this, I want you to float our book right here.
I'm on it.
It is. So some of the snake oil sales 101.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sell somebody on your own personal brand of magic.
Yeah.
Only you can save them.
Yep.
You frame it all as empowering to the person. So you're empowered to heal yourself with my magic snake oil,
and
whatever it is.
Only believe me, because I'm
It
the only
is
one
a
that can tell you the truth.
It is a formula that has evolved over literally thousands of years.
It works really well.
Because it works.
Yes.
It's not an accident.
Yep.
It is not an accident. This is exactly why things are formulated the way they are in the snake oil, new age, whatever industry. Psychics do it the same way. It's all a scam to make money. And, so like all magic tricks, it's like if you watch a bad magician, you learn how all the tricks are done because they're not good at it, right? They give away all the
secrets,
the secrets that they're doing. So every industry has its pyramid of quality, right? You have to look at the people that are farther down, which we do all the time. Like some third tier medium wants us to investigate them 100%, because that's absolutely, that's who I want to investigate, is the third tier local regional, really backbencher kind of medium, because they're going to be so bad they will give away all of the trade secrets.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's just a great way of understanding how the whole thing works. You don't want to look at the really super polished, salesman who is good at really deception and diversion and hiding what they're doing. It's like, if you want to try to figure out how a trick is done, don't watch a world master do it who is great at deceiving you. You want to watch somebody who's bumbling and going to give it away.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Anyway, so we... Thank
or
you.
watch TikTok, because TikTok, I like how you crept it up. TikTok has lots of reveal magicians, and that's another place to go. But Steve, you're 100% right. And it's just more of the same. You know what happens.
So this woman was the top of the peak of the new age gurus, but still, like, the formula is there. The absolute. Here's someone who I think who's not very bright, who has given away the formula blatantly, is Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Alex Jones. It's just that he found that if you layer it all with sort of patriotic conspiracy theories, that it doesn't matter. You can be terrible and transparent.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It's like magicians who claim to be psychics. Some magicians have realized that if you claim to be a psychic, you can suck and it doesn't matter, because then people will believe you, right? But if you say I'm a magician, you have to be really good.
Yeah.
Because now people are going to be looking for what you're doing. But if you just layer it with magic, if you can get people to believe in magic, then you can sell them anything.
That's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, like Alex Jones sells his vitamins.
It's all about selling his vitamins.
Why would a news reporter, a quote unquote, it's him. He's reporting the news that is that people are
ostensibly, yeah.
Why would they need to sell vitamins?
Yeah. To save the country from the pedophiles, Jay.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say that.
Oh, that's right. Oh, this whole thing.
Peter
Have to delete the whole thing.
File. Peter file. I don't know.
I will bid everyone adieu. Great to see everyone in the chat there. I felt like you guys added a lot to the discussion today. Ian, you've done good work.
Thank you very much.
I will leave you to Dr. Stephen Novella.
What do you suppose they're trying to sell? Just look at their website.
Yeah.
They're all selling herbs or crystals.
Alex Jones
their
supplements.
books, their courses, obviously, all that kind of stuff. But they're making bank.
Yeah.
Like the top tier and even the second tier, they're making millions. It's not like they're eking away some lower middle class existence. Yes, at the lower tiers, like some kind of local psychic who's just scraping by. Even they do remarkably well, by the way. But these people are making
Dr. Oz and his, I had to look it up. His coffee had his
selling
green
shit.
coffee bean cleanse bullshit.
Didn't you go on the show? Was
I was
that?
on there.
Yeah.
I was on one episode of that show. Yeah,
Before the green coffee, or was it? For
I think it was
something
before.
else?
around that same time.
Yeah.
This was about acupuncture. It wasn't
Oh,
about
right,
the green
right,
coffee.
right. From Swine Showmanship, North Carolina State Extension Publications, your eye contact with the judge is very important. By making eye contact, the judge will almost automatically look at your market hog. Your good eye contact also ensures that you will not miss a cue to be penned or to follow some other request by the judge.
Okay.
So there you go.
There we go.
That's
Good. There is an
why-
answer.
There's an answer.
It's
why
still
they-
weird.
you.
I know it's legit, but it looks weird. That's it.
It looks weird. I get it.
That's all. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not offending anybody by saying that looks weird.
Well, all right. What I'll admit that what's weird is how narrowly and sharply focused the attention is.
Yeah.
Because you could pay attention to the judge out of the corner of your eye. You know what I mean? Like, make sure they're always in your field of view so that you would notice if they talk to you, if they signal to you,
Right.
without it being this deadpan.
It's stylized, yeah.
Yeah, like that girl with
It's become stylized.
that
Yeah, it has.
did it in a very menacing
Like
kind of way.
intense,
You know,
yeah.
I'd smile at
It's
them,
become
please.
its own thing. It's
Yeah.
not, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
beyond the practicality of it into its own kind of
Yes.
cultural aspect of that competition.
The world is a weird place, Steve.
Yeah.
Lots of weird stuff
Yeah.
going on.
Absolutely.
All right.
A lot of fun.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye. We're moving on to the TikToks.
All
Let's
right.
hit that TikTok button. Oh, and I got to move the camera. So, Steve, feel free to talk to chat. All right.
Talk to the chat. Someone says, "What kind of regulations would you want?" This is I've written a ton about this. Just read neurological blog, read science-based medicine, listen to the SGU. I think that partly if we just enforced existing regulations against fraud, that would be nice. There is a level beyond which you are committing demonstrable fraud. If you lie to somebody in order to falsely induce them into giving you money, that's consumer fraud, right? So how about just not let people lie to induce a commercial transaction? How about that? I also would love it if the states actually enforced the law about practicing medicine without a license. That would be nice too. There are actual laws. You're not supposed to practice medicine without a license, but states mostly just look the other way. Partly because they don't have the funding and the resources to really do it, but also because the public doesn't want them to do it. But that would be nice.
Also, thank you, Lark, in the Discord for sending that information about the swine showmanship.
Yeah.
We had our Discord furiously searching for some background knowledge. Okay, so we're going to move on to our TikToks. I got to get a TikTok intro one of these days. I'll make one. So we know we're on the TikTok path. So let's see. Which one did you
Yeah,
prefer?
Deshay needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Replaced.
Do you prefer
Either one? Hit me.
Hit you. Okay, let's go to Raiki. Picture in picture. Here we go. Not that. That's we'll save that for next week because that'll be fun. Where'd it go? No, I lost it. There it is. Boop 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 boop. No.
Is that French?
No, it was Doja Cat listening to a banger. It's just it's a goofy video, and I thought it makes me laugh, and I was gonna play it for you guys at the beginning, but we'll save it for next week. That'll get him to come back next week, definitely. All right, Steve has to check his phone real quick. Where does the line between fraud and aggressive marketing exist at all?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's hard to say. Y'all see the
ask the Theranos woman where that line
Theranos.
is.
Yeah, well,
Theranos.
she found out.
Yeah, she found there's a lot. There is a line apparently, and she was over it.
She marketed around and found out, and whatever.
Yeah, the whole fake it till you make it thing, is but the thing is when faking it means lying in a prospectus to investors, that's the line, right? That's at least
true.
one of the lines, right?
That's true. Did we see the Terrence Howard? Yeah, we were just talking about it at the
We
earlier
saw
part.
all of them, yeah.
You missed out. So go back into either the TikTok or on YouTube because we're streaming on YouTube. Is there a place we should watch to best support the SGU, like here versus Discord versus somewhere else? TikTok is great because we're trying to grow the audience. Discord is great because you have to be a patron to be there, and YouTube. I mean, anywhere, whatever platform you prefer.
That's a very vague answer, Ian.
I know. I'm so sorry. The one where you pay us, maybe. So Patreon, like a Discord, whatever. It's up to you. All right.
Yeah, when rich people lose money, that is absolutely.
That's true.
You'll notice that she got convicted not for defrauding millions of health consumers, but for defrauding rich investors. That was the line.
That is
absolutely.
The line. You can't do that, according to the government. All right, here we go. All right, we're going to record this. I guess I'll just play the beginning, right? Was there a specific claim? I mean, it's the whole thing.
I think she says it pretty much right up. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Reiki can't possibly work, so why does it? This was an article in The Atlantic talking about how some hospitals are offering Reiki, and the debate this brings up because Reiki delivers demonstrably good effects without a proven cause. So we have a number of solid studies that show that Reiki can regulate your nervous system, alter your experience of pain, reduce side effects of chemo, and improve surgical outcomes.
Good stop there. That's a perfect place to stop.
Perfect. Good. She does make an interesting claim later where it's like you have to know about like the universe or something, like everything about, which is such a
she
weird...
did. Yeah, her one legit point is don't tell me you know how it works.
Right.
But it's still premised on a false premise that I'd like to address.
All right, so we are rolling.
So does Reiki work? That's really the question, and the presenter there was assuming that it does, or was convinced by the published evidence that Reiki works. But that premise, we shouldn't endorse that so quickly. That's actually the question that we need to explore very directly. And we do, by the way, on science-based medicine, that very article, when it came out in The Atlantic, we did a takedown of it on science-based medicine and a deep dive into the literature, the actual scientific studies, exploring whether or not Reiki works. So Reiki is essentially the claim that you can manipulate people's life energy field with your hands. It doesn't involve touching. It's not like therapeutic touch. It's a little bit different. But the Reiki is kind of like this more hands-on on manipulating your energy field thing. And so, of course, there is no energy field. There is no living energy field the way that it is, presented in the energy medicine, proponents. The idea is, centuries old, obviously, and it was kind of a placeholder for our ignorance, meaning like whatever we didn't yet understand about biology, that's what the life force did. And then, of course, eventually we pretty much figured out all of the basic functions of human biology and physiology. There was really nothing left for the life force to do, and it just became this hand-wavy woo explanation for any snake oil that doesn't have a plausible mechanism. But people who are modern-day proponents can't demonstrate that it exists. They can't demonstrate that they can sense it, that they can have any biological effect by manipulating it. It has no basis in basic science, or, I would argue, in clinical science. So how is it that The Atlantic and that she says that the evidence shows that it works, and I'm going to sit here and tell you that the same evidence shows you that it doesn't work? It has to do with the quality of clinical studies. This is something that we talk about and investigate and explore in excruciating detail on science-based medicine. That's pretty much one of the focuses of that blog, is what is the nature of clinical evidence? How do you do it well? What does it actually tell us? The problem is that, or one of the problems here is that when you're doing clinical studies, right, you're studying patients to see if they get quote unquote better. If there's any subjectivity to the outcome, it's very hard to nail that down in a clinical study. It's hard to control for all confounding variables, such as the very many different types of placebo effects. And so how do you control for that? You have to really exquisitely blind both the person who's receiving the treatment and any evaluator, and even might have to triple blind them, like even the person who's doing the Reiki. So the subject can't know if they're getting Reiki or not. Or they can't know if they're getting real Reiki, that you have to somehow give them fake Reiki or placebo Reiki. The practitioner shouldn't know if they're doing it or not, And if they do, it's very easy for them to unblind the subject by being more or less enthusiastic or personable or interactive. And then whoever's evaluating the outcome or whatever the outcome measure is has to be objective as possible. So if you have an unblinded Raiki master, an unblinded patient, and a subjective outcome like how much pain do you feel, those studies are basically worthless. Seriously, they are just they don't tell us anything because you're essentially just measuring placebo effects, and there's absolutely no way to distinguish any real effect of Reiki from placebo effects, meaning just regression to the mean or just subjective validation or just reporting that you feel better because you hope you feel better or because you think that's what the person wants to hear, or you're less anxious and because of the personal interaction, and the lower anxiety reduces your perception of pain, etc. Even when you're looking at things like side effects, placebo effects are also existing, or like outcomes from surgery, but we're not talking about objective outcomes here. We're often talking about, again, subjective outcomes, like what the patient's quality of life is down the road. But even when you do deal with somewhat or semi-objective outcome measures, if the study was not exquisitely blinded in every aspect, or it wasn't properly randomized, or you didn't track the dropout rate sufficiently, there's lots of things that can alter the outcome of a study. And there's a lot of ways you can tweak the way you do the study in order to try to generate an outcome that looks positive. It's called p-hacking. Look into that. Just look up p-hacking on science-based medicine. It's basically, playing a little loose with how you decide how to analyze the data in order to make it seem more positive than it is. It's very easy to do. So what we don't have with Reiki, just like we don't have with a lot of dubious interventions that probably are not based in reality, is you don't have high quality, replicable studies that are properly blinded with objective outcome measures that clearly show a statistically and clinically significant effect, right? Which is what you would need to really establish that it does work. That does not exist with Reiki. You combine that with the fact that there is no plausible or possible known mechanism by which it could possibly work. And which, of course, those two things tend to go together quite a bit in medicine. We often will see that you can never quite get to the threshold of proving that something actually works. And there's, for those interventions where there's also no plausible mechanism. So, but of course, in medicine, we deal with a lot of outcomes that are hard to study exquisitely or that are subjective. And so that's why with science-based medicine, we say you can't rely on either one of those two things. In order for us to really be confident that we're using a treatment that is actually helpful to patients, we need to have the whole picture, right? We need to have a treatment that has a plausible mechanism that clearly shows a positive outcome. Even then, we're constantly pushing the quality of the clinical evidence so that we could really be sure that we're not just fooling ourselves, right? That with placebo effects or with poor quality studies. Now, but if you're a proponent, right? If you're like a Reiki proponent, you may have more of an incentive to do a study which shows that Reiki works. And therefore, it's easy to do one of these gray zone, sort of controlled clinical trials, or with some kind of subjective outcome, basically designed in a way where it's almost guaranteed to generate a positive outcome, and then claim, look, there's scientific evidence that Reiki works. But of course, it wasn't the kind of clinical study that could really tell us if it worked or not. So the devil's in the details. You have to look at each individual study. You have to examine it for quality, for the evidence, et cetera. We've done that. Again, read our articles on science-based medicine. The evidence for Reiki is simply not there. We cannot conclude that somehow it works, even though there's no possible mechanism. It's both there's no mechanism and it probably doesn't work either.
Very good. Okay. We crushed that one.
So how would the practitioner not know they're doing Reiki? So it's challenging. But what you do is the Reiki master doesn't know what they're treating, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you have to say that it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? That's all the same Reiki treatment is the same for whatever the outcome is. And I don't think that's what they claim. Or you grade them based upon years of experience. Like you give somebody essentially a 10-minute, and this has been done with acupuncture, this has been with other things. You give somebody a 10, 15-minute quickie seminar on how to do Reiki, and then you use somebody who's had 20 years experience doing it and seeing if there's any difference. Of course, there never is a difference in the outcome. But then they say, well, I guess that person's really good. They're intuitive, very good at doing Reiki. Maybe all you need is 15 minutes of training in order to do it well. Of course, it's not really that plausible. So you find the best ways you can to try to come up with reasonable controls. And whenever you do that, there's no difference, right? There's no difference between, fake Reiki or the 15-minute pseudo Reiki or Reiki for the wrong illness or whatever versus an experienced Reiki person who's been doing it for years, who apparently knows how to do it and knows what they're treating, right? If there's no difference between those two things, then what's happening? Then what is it? That fits way better with it's just a ritual placebo effect than a real physiological effect from something happening to the body, All
right. Should we move on to the next
Yeah.
one? All right.
Let's
so
do it.
We'll do the flat earther guy.
Yeah.
I think I got a good timestamp of where.
Okay. Yeah.
He's got I propose.
Yeah. Sure.
I think that gets his point across. All right. Let's see.
We get half a dozen of the most famous and outspoken globers, half a dozen of the most famous and outspoken flat earthers, and we put 3 of each into 2 different aeroplanes. All right? We start them off at the same point, and those 2 aeroplanes fly off in opposite directions, following the coastline, which means they'll meet approximately halfway round on the other side. So on both models, supposing they set off from the closest point to Chile, and halfway round, they're both going to meet up somewhere around Tasmania, all right? The difference will be the distance they've traveled and how far and how long it will take them to get there. So supposing, for argument's sake, that those both planes are traveling at 500 miles an hour, then on a globe Earth model, they'll both have to cover 5,000 miles, which is about 10 hours. And on a flat Earth model, they both have to travel 39,000 miles, which is about 78 hours before they meet up. Now that's a huge difference and a huge margin of error. Now this is complicated.
All right, I think that's
good.
I'll cut it together because
Yeah.
it's too long. But there's that. Okay, and we're rolling.
I think the real problem with that experiment is who's going to spend 78 hours in an airplane. That's a long trip. So I appreciate that the presenter here is trying to resolve, come up with an experiment that would resolve the debate between flat earthers and what he calls globals, which may be a giveaway as to what this guy really believes, but they're not globals. They're scientists, right? Scientists who understand the evidence, the body of evidence, which overwhelmingly proves for thousands of years, actually, that the world is a sphere. It is a globe. We're not globals or globalists or whatever. But anyway, I'm just quibbling there. But here's the real problem with what he's proposing. He's assuming that incontrovertible evidence that for one or the other outcome, that the world is a sphere, because that's what it is, would put the debate to rest. It wouldn't. It wouldn't, because we already have incontrovertible evidence that the world is a sphere, and it just gets completely rejected by the flat earthers. So this would be no exception. There'd be no exception. We have pictures of the Earth. They say that they're fake, right? We have the evidence from all of the existing airline travel, which is based upon a spherical Earth, right? In terms of how long it takes to fly from point A to point B. They just dismiss that it's all a conspiracy. The pilots apparently are all in on the global Earth conspiracy, right? Or we have, time-lapse video of Antarctica showing that the sun in the summer is revolving all the way around the horizon, which would not exist, on the flat Earth model, but does exist on a spherical Earth. They dismiss that as a fake or whatever. There's something wrong with it. They could go right now and fly and sail around Antarctica. That that would prove that it's not this gigantic ice wall around the entire Earth. There's a million ways they could prove it wrong, and it's been done. And whenever they do propose an experiment, they can do. Watch Behind the Curve, right? The movie Behind the Curve. They say, wait, if we got a gyroscope and the Earth is spinning, the gyroscope should rotate every 24 hours with the rotation of the Earth, but on a flat Earth model, it should be stationary. So they buy a $20,000 gyroscope, they do the experiment, and it spins, just like the Earth is rotating every 24 hours. And so they say, well, maybe it's the stars going around the Earth, dragging it with it. That's why, Then again, at the end of the movie, a very funny sequence where they buy a laser, they set up an experiment where if they put the laser in a target. If the Earth is flat, the height of the laser should be the same at the 2 points. If the Earth is curved, then the laser should be a little bit higher at the other end. And guess what? It's a little bit higher. It's basically exactly what you would predict on a spherical Earth. It disproves a flat Earth. And they go, I guess the reeds were just deflecting the laser beam a little bit and causing that's what happened. Don't underestimate the human ability for rationalization, for what we call special pleading. After the fact, they will make up, it may take them a day or two, but 100% of the time, when you show pseudoscientists and conspiracy theorists like the flat earthers incontrovertible proof that what they believe is wrong, basically 100% of the time, certainly in my personal experience, they make up a special pleading excuse to explain away why the results didn't go their way. It never ends the debate because they didn't science their way into their position in the first place. So there's no way to science them out of their opinion. They believe in such a massive conspiracy theory spanning centuries, spanning every country in the world apparently, every astronomer, everybody with a telescope, every pilot, NASA, everything. It's all a giant conspiracy to gaslight billions of people into thinking the Earth is a sphere when in fact it's flat for some reason, some nefarious reason of just control, whatever. How can you possibly convince somebody with a few facts that view is wrong? If the whole point of the flat Earth conspiracy is that you can believe anything you want, right? The whole point of it is to be immune to evidence, right? That's the reason why it is such an extreme conspiracy. It is a feature, not a bug. It is so that once you've convinced yourself that they can fake the shape of the Earth, then they can fake anything. Then you can disbelieve anything that the general public believes or the government is claiming or that authorities or experts claim. You can say it's all a conspiracy because they've convinced everyone that the Earth is round when we know that it's flat, so they could fake anything else. That's the whole point of the flat Earth conspiracy. It is the master conspiracy. You're not going to convince them with evidence. It's simply not going to happen. So that would not end the debate. Maybe there might be a couple of people on the fringe or newly into the flat Earth cult or whatever who might see the light of day, maybe, but will it have an impact on flat eartherism in general? No. It would have no impact. So it's just a naive, suggestion, proposal. It's not going to make any difference. We're never going to prove them wrong and end the debate. They just need to be marginalized because they are conspiracy theorists and cranks, and they're demonstrably wrong. At best, in my opinion, the whole flat earther thing is a good opportunity to teach them basic science about astronomy and geology and physics, etc. Teaching people all the different ways in which we know the Earth is a sphere, it can be a fun way to teach some basic science. That's really the only I think utility that we can get out of this. But we're never going to prove them, to their satisfaction that they're wrong.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I think he was technically calling us globers, but the captioning.
Globals? Globers?
Global. Yeah,
whatever.
wrote globals.
Globals?
But I think they call us globers or whatever.
I mean, like, I don't know if he's trying to be neutral in the video,
Maybe.
but I mean, you can't use that term.
Yeah, it's like clearly it's kind of like
that's the flat earther term. So
right.
You're not being neutral by using that term,
right? Because he didn't say flurf, which is like that's what people call the flat earthers.
Yeah.
Or, there's another.
Just don't use any term. Just say people who believe the world is flat,
right.
people who believe that the world is a sphere, or whatever.
Yeah, it's a little shows his hand maybe.
Yeah. Right.
Right,
oh yeah, I didn't even say like then at the end he gets all conspiracy theory himself.
Yeah.
It's like they want us to be fighting about the shape of the Earth. They don't want. They could have proved this a long time. That's all bullshit. I could have done another 10 minutes on that nonsense.
That's like a whole nother.
Yeah.
All right, so we got this last one, which is the proof of an afterlife.
I don't know if I want. Do I want to do this one?
You don't have to do it if we don't want to do it.
We could talk about it on the chat, maybe.
Yeah,
it's just that there's just the answer is there. I don't know. People make stuff up. You know what I mean? There's nothing. There's no evidence. It's just it's just a story.
Yeah.
And I hate dealing with these like friend of a friend stories because
Yeah.
like there's no meat there for me to debunk. There's nothing I could do except saying that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. You know, it's like, and with the thing is, it's that's so you can either show it or like we just summarize it very quickly. The guy says that a friend of his was at a bar drunk apparently and had this urge to tell somebody that her leg hurts even though it doesn't. This total stranger, and then she does, and the guy says, "Oh, when my father died, we did the whole Houdini thing, where it's like if you die, like when I die, I will send you a message, and that message is my leg hurts, right? I'll find some way to send you this random message." So that was like some confirmation of the afterlife. It's like the thing is, whenever you investigate these stories, they usually lead to one of two outcomes. One is they lead to a friend of a friend chain that never ends.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you go to the friend who apparently this happened to, which is, "Oh no, that didn't happen to me. That happened to my friend, this other person." Then you go to them, it's like, "Oh no, that didn't happen to me. That happened to this other person." There's this infinite regression of who it really happened to, and you never get to the actual person it happened to because it didn't happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It's just a story that got somehow propagated, and then people just always attribute it to the last person who told it to them or whatever.
Right.
So that's what we call it, a friend of a friend kind of story. Or the other thing is it leads to somebody who is a true believer guru who I just wouldn't believe for a moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all right, either you're delusional or you're a guru or you're selling snake oil or you're Ed Warren, whatever. You're not a credible source. So good luck to you. But that's it. That's the only two possible outcomes.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of anything. You know what I mean?
I will say that even in their claim, it's a little hazy because he said, "Tell me my leg hurts," but then the person recounting is like, "I have pain in my leg," or so, it's like not even. But I guess that's a superficially perhaps
it's probably
it doesn't
close.
matter.
But for the point of the narrative, it's close enough.
It's close enough. They don't really.
I just don't believe the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the comments are like, it's a glitch in the matrix, or I think it's a lot of the sadness of like just a dad getting his message of love to his son. Like a lot of people dealing with grief, and this is like a way to.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so that brings up a third category of somebody who is in the throes of grief who's over interpreting random shit.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot too. And because, memory is malleable.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I said, all right, what if that wasn't the phrase that they agreed upon or was something else, maybe something to do with the leg, but not pain in the leg or whatever, and then he misremembered it when that person said that to him, or maybe she said something else. Like when you get to the details, they don't always line up in the nice, clean narrative that then gets propagated.
Right.
It was like and I've seen that happen so many times where the details, they were just like slightly in alignment, or sometimes not even in alignment at all, but people adjust both ends of the story to sort of bring them into alignment, and that becomes this clean story. That's what the definition of the word apocryphal, right? It just becomes the story is is tweaked over time to become this powerful narrative, even though the original details were nothing like it. It's like the game of telephone, but with an emotional, layer to it, and that's what we're dealing with. Just the narrative, not. It's not evidence of anything. It's just at the end of the day, it's a ghost story,
Yeah. All right, Chad, if you have any questions, ask now. Ask now. If you have any questions, ask now.
Better hurry.
Yeah, I'm just posting
Getting
that
ready
in the
to
chat.
go.
Feel free. Yeah, we're gonna skedaddle because we got to record the show tonight.
Yeah.
Which is happening. Any little, not spoilers, but hints at what's potentially on the docket, or do we want to keep it close to
I
the
actually
chest?
haven't put it together yet. I'm still waiting for everybody to send me. I know some of the things that are going to happen, but I haven't put the whole show together.
Can you solve a Rubik's Cube?
I used to be able to solve a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
I probably still can do it if I try.
A lot of it is memory, it seems like.
Yeah, just,
it's like-
I read this pamphlet on this is how you solve a Rubik's Cube, and it gives you like these maneuvers to do. You do one layer at a time, right? So the first layer is easy. And then you have these different things that you could do to move things into place for the second layer. Then you do the top layer. I used to be able to do it like in 5-6 minutes. Never great at it. Just like
not like the 10-second.
No,
guys
yeah,
that
the
are
10 second. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's been a while. But I would have to like refamiliarize myself with those maneuvers to do it again, or just learn some new way to do it. It's not hard. Like anybody could do it if you just
memorize the thing. I mean,
just
those people
memorize
that-
a few maneuvers that you need to do.
Yeah, the people that do it in 10 seconds, they are also their muscle memory. It's like I don't even think they think about how am I doing this.
They're not
thing?
consciously processing it. They're just reacting to.
That's almost harder. Whoever figures it out the first time, maybe the inventor, but like that would be pretty cool.
I was gray by 30.
Yeah. Does gut health affect or correlate with ADHD? Oh, that was the one that we were going to do.
Yeah, we didn't do that one.
It's
It's just too deep a topic.
Yeah.
So it's the thing is that the gut microbiome is complicated, and it does influence neurotransmitters, and it does influence hormones and metabolism, but it's complicated, and we haven't been able to like fully connect the dots yet in terms of saying, therefore, if we make this change, it'll have this health benefit. Like, if we're not there yet, and anyone who's claiming that, like, or that we have explained a disease with the gut biome, or that we can influence the course of a disease with the gut biome, we're not quite there yet. And even, like, I remember having a lecture on MS where the researcher was like, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, we naively thought that we were going to be able to, like, treat MS by altering the gut biome. And turns out it's a lot more complicated than we thought, and we're basically making no progress, So it's, I would say that's like a stay tuned kind of thing. We're in the early stages of sort of sorting that out. It's probably a lot more limited than we think in terms of like its ability to actually influence non-gut health, where it's like, there's a connection, things are happening, but it's not anything that really leads to anything practical or pragmatic. But we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something that becomes another thing we can manipulate in the future. It may be that we need to like be genetically engineering like super biome, bacteria, whatever, to really have an effect, or we just need to understand it at a much deeper level than we do now. But there's like no probiotic you could take or anything that's like gonna treat your ADHD or have any effect like that.
Yeah. What about the trucker hat? I know that's something Jay and I have to jump on that. And
we got the trucker hat.
We have them, but right now we're only selling them in person. So if you come to the Chicago show,
come to Chicago.
Come to Chicago. But we are looking at getting it onto the store, which is possible. We just have to dedicate the time to do it.
Yeah.
So we will get that. And there's also another thing which is potentially in the works, which is that skeptic.
The T-shirt.
The T-shirt and maybe a poster. So we'll figure that out.
All right, we'll figure it out.
That's another thing that will be coming soon. Any other questions? I can do a cube in less than a minute. Very good. Is it a real thing that some cult leaders could use hypnosis or hypnotism to control followers?
So you don't have to. Yes and no. There was a good study from a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago, where they did fMRI of people who were listening to a charismatic speaker from within their own belief system and from outside their own belief system. And when they were listening to a charismatic speaker from within their own belief system, the parts of the frontal lobe that sort of test reality and make you skeptical and question things became less active. It's like we actually turned off our reality testing, challenging, skeptical thinking part of the brain when listening to somebody who is within our tribe, right, within our belief system, who is charismatic. But that didn't happen when listening to somebody from another, religion or belief system or whatever. So that is, whether you call that hypnosis or not, it's like that, yes, you can mesmerize or hypnotize a crowd with a charismatic speaker who is telling people what they want to hear or is reinforcing their belief systems or what they want to believe. This is like Hitler speaking, into his enwrapped crowds who are shouting and going crazy and whatever. There's definitely something neurological that's like hypnosis going on there.
Speaking with family members and friends about critical thinking, I get bad social anxiety ideas. Is that
practice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, social anxiety is about, you any kind of anxiety thing like that, it's like confrontation therapy is helpful. That basically just means doing it in little doses until you get better at it. There's also role-playing things that you could do where you basically talk to somebody that you feel safe with, and that's where you're sort of practicing like what you would say and getting used to doing it. If you have real anxiety, you might need to actually see a therapist. But if it's just, if you don't think it's at that point, you just want some tips on how to not get nervous when you're trying to promote skepticism to family and friends.
Yeah,
that's a good way to do it.
Have you seen the UFO? Oh, that's the Brian Dunning's movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so check it out. That could be maybe an AQ6 one. I don't know. It's kind of somewhat related. Maybe SGU.
No, but it's good. Yeah, Brian did a good job.
All right, good. I think we'll hold it there. And then while you're out in the wild, chatters and viewers, please send us in any TikToks that you see that are a bunch of odd things going on or weird things or claims or whatever that you see that you think you would like our commentary on. You can DM us on TikTok or send it in to the email or tag us is usually pretty good. That's how I see a lot of them. What are you most excited about? Dragon Con this year.
I'm not going to Dragon Con this year because my daughter's getting married at that time. So
same time.
Wedding takes precedence over Dragon Con.
Unfortunately. We should have had forced them to get married at Dragon Con.
Get married at Dragon Con, not happening. No. That's not happening. No. Yeah, so next year we'll have to it's good. I think every other year is a good timing for Dragon Con.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It feels too soon if you keep doing it. Is Dr. Novella Benjamin buttoning? Yes, he's found the secret. Oh, that actually reminds me of that billionaire investor guy that people want us to talk about who's like all into anti-aging kind of stuff. Yeah, we could do a deep dive on him. I don't know. It's like he's got a lot of money. He does up weird shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because again, I have patients. I have some patients I've been seeing now for 20 plus years or whatever, and people generally say like I have not aged in the last 20 years but I think it's because I just went gray at 30.
Yeah.
Like at 30 I was gray. So people thought I was a lot older than I was. I'm basically aging into my look, right? If you think about it that way. And so it looks like I'm standing still in terms of the aging, but it's just because I looked like I literally, like I was, when I was LARPing in my 20s, like I'm like 28, 29 years old. Somebody thought I was over 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like 30 years old. I mean, come on, dude. So what happens is, and this is also true, this is like a little social psychology aside. Yeah, just like Steve Martin. Social psychology aside, people don't notice details, right? When we look at a person, we get a gestalt. This is that inattentional blindness thing or that change blindness thing. Remember Darren Brown has that video about it, but this is a classic psychological experiment. If like you secretly replace somebody with somebody else, like let's say that the way the experiment's done, you go to a counter at some establishment, a hotel or whatever, a store, and you interact with the person behind the counter and they say, let me get that form for you. They completely duck down below the counter and then a different person stands up and completes the interaction with you.
Yeah.
As long as that person is the same gender, race and rough age, like old or young, you will 40% of the time or so, 35, 40% of the time, people won't notice. They will not notice. It's a different person. Sometimes they won't notice if it's even, you can change those variables, but the probability of noticing goes up. But think about that. So I think people just like see, like they saw the gray hair and they just mentally just slotted me as like somebody with gray hair and didn't notice that I was 30. You know what I mean? Like I had a young looking face. Although on one of the something that we did where I used a photograph of myself from we were doing, it was like, I think the photo was from Vancouver, like the live show we did in Vancouver. And so now you're looking at a photograph of me. It's a little bit more of a prolonged interaction with a still. And then there's a lot of comments underneath it, like, how old is this guy? 16 or 60? I can't tell. Because then they realize, like, yeah, I didn't have wrinkles at the time. I was very young looking, but I had the gray hair. And it's like a dichotomy. And people, like, their brains are struggling to align these things. And now I've been slowly aging into that gestalt that people have. And I think, I generally take good care of myself. I hope I'm aging well. We'll see. But thanks for the comment about Benjamin buttoning. That would be nice.
Yeah,
I'd like to age backward for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or even 30 years. Age backward. And
just go back and forth.
And then,
Rubber bands.
then we can go forward again. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye-bye, and I'll play off with some music. Here we go. Is it going to play? There it is. Boom.
All right.
Yeah.